Welcome to the Planet of Maths channel. In this video, we'll talk about factoring expressions by grouping. In the first example, we have 4 terms here. We see right away that from these 4 terms, none can be excluded simultaneously. But such examples can be done by grouping terms. We'll group these first 2 terms together, and if we look at just these 2 terms, here we can take out the 2 in front of the parenthesis. Then in parentheses we have, since we took a 2 from here, what remains is x, and we took 2 from here, so we're left with plus y. We also group the next 2 terms, and from these next 2 terms we see that here you can factor out the letter a. If we took out the letter a from here, then an x remains here, plus, and since we took out a, y remains here. We turn some things off, and now the most important step. We need to look at these 2 windows. We can see the whole parenthesis repeats in every box. So now we will factor this parenthesis in front of the other parenthesis. On the principle of taking out, from this first box we take out the bracket x plus y, a whole bracket. And in the second bracket, we write what remains, which after taking out x plus y, leaves us with the 2. From the second expression, if we remove x plus y, we're left with a in the bracket. And that's exactly the same expression we had at the beginning. In example B, we do the same. Just a reminder that x squared means x times x, and we take the first window and the second window, group the terms. From the first window, we can factor out x. We have taken out 1x, so 1x remains. There is a minus, and since x was taken, so here remains 3. From this second window, we can take out the letter a, and then inside the brackets, it will be x minus 3. Now we have 2 such windows in which the bracket x minus 3 repeats. So we take this x minus 3 out of the bracket. We take away the parenthesis in front of the parenthesis and look. From this first window, since we took away x minus 3, x remains. From the second window, we took x minus 3. So what remains is a, and that's it. Another example. We also group terms. One window, a second window. From the first window, we can factor out a 5. Then inside the brackets, we'll have x minus y. And from the second window, we can factor something out, but here's also the matter of the sign. From this, I can extract an x. If there was a plus x here, in parentheses, we would have to put minus x plus y. But this kind of factoring doesn't help us much, because the parentheses must be the same, and here they are not. So we need to approach this differently. Specifically, we will eliminate x from the second window, but we will exclude the negative x. We take out negative x, and then what remains in the window is x. We have x. From this term, we will get y. Just need to make sure everything fits together. To get a plus from multiplication, we need to add a minus here, because then a negative x times a negative y gives a positive xy. And now everything suits us. Now we proceed as before. That is the same bracket we take out in front of the another bracket. From the first window, after removing the bracket, we are left with a 5. And from the second window, after removing the parenthesis, we are left with x. And we have it factored. In example D, we don't really have to complicate things here, at least at the start. From the first 2 terms, we factor out a. In parentheses, then we have x plus y. Now what to do to also have x plus y in parenthesis from these 2 subsequent terms? Here we need to extract the minus in front of the bracket, and then in brackets, we will have x plus y. After dropping this parenthesis, taking into account the minus in front, from such a thing, we get something like this. So it's almost good. There is a minor catch here, but more on that in a moment. So we have a parenthesis in this window. We have a parenthesis in this window. So we factor out the parenthesis, which means x plus y in the front, and in parentheses from this first window, we are left with the letter a. There is a minus here, and since we've removed this bracket, here we have, and nothing remains. But in such a situation, the 1 appears, the one that was invisible until now. After removing the bracket, we are left with this one. And now, the last 2 examples. There's not much I can do about the first 2 terms, so I just copied them. From the next 2 terms here, I can factor out x. Then, inside the bracket, I'm left with 1. How about x to the 3rd power? I took away 1x, leaving me with 2 x's. 2 x's, that's x squared. And what do I have here? I have in parenthesis 1 plus x squared, and I can also create a parenthesis here. It's enough to just draw it here. And now, I have this bracket already, so 1 plus x squared, I factor it out. What's left for us from this? From this window, if we've taken this bracket outside, then here again, this invisible one appears to us. And this one I write in the parenthesis. From this second window, we are left with x, and that is the solution for example E. We're left with example F. The problem with example F is that here, if we take a look, we have the wrong order of the terms. Sometimes you just have to play around. I have a 2 and a 7. Here I have a 7 and a 2. This order isn't good, so I'm copying this beginning, and these two terms, I change their order. And now it looks good. I have 2, 7 and 2, 7, so there's hope that something will come of it. And now we're playing with these windows. The first window of the two terms, I can exclude y in front of the brackets. If I excluded y, then what remains here is 2x, and from that, what remains is 7. From those next two terms, I can see that, certainly, the minus would have to be taken to the front. And since there's x squared here and x over there, I'll factor x out, and then what's inside the parenthesis? If this x is negative here, then inside the bracket, I'll have something positive. And from these two squares of x, I'll get 2. And here remains x. Multiplying negative x by 2x gives me this. If I took a minus in front of the parenthesis, and then took an x, I'd be left with 7. And this 7 is positive. And we have what we wanted. We have two identical brackets here and here, so we take out the 2x plus 7 in front of the bracket. Brackets in front of the brackets again. From the first frame here, after removing this parenthesis, y remains, and from that frame, after removing this parenthesis, I'm left with a minus x. And that's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and I invite you to tune in for the next episodes on the Planet of Maths channel.